Hello, my fellow writers. My name is Laura, and welcome to Learn to Writer, where we learn about the mental skills of being a writer. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad to see you, and if you've been here before, then may the words be ever in your favor. So, sometimes life kicks you in the teeth. We've talked before about times to take a break, like when big life event happen, when there's holidays, stuff like that. But we didn't really talk about when you just kind of get worn down. And then these are the type of times that people are far more likely to push through. Like when you're like sick or your kid is sick, you might be like, okay, there's really something going on. But when you're just like, I'm not feeling it, like you push through. There's no real reason why you're not feeling good, right? However, if you've been working on your awareness, your intuition, your feel, as we've defined before, that gut feeling that you sometimes have when you know something, but you can't actually point out specifics necessarily to someone or even yourself, like you just know, right? You just know somewhere in yourself that is the thing. And this is what happens when we get worn down like this, is it's like we're feeling bad, we're like whatever, and we've just been taught to push through it. And obviously, a lot of the time you can, right? You can kind of push through it, and then you get like a little bit of rest or whatever, and then, you come out the other side and you're like, oh, look, I'm fine. And sometimes you do have to do that. Sometimes you do actually have things that you have to do. You have deadlines, you have events, you have to take care of your children, or like work really, really has to be done. But you muscle through, sometimes knowing that you're muscling through. We all do this sometimes because Western culture has taught us productivity above all, and if you're not producing, then it's a moral failure. You are not lazy. You are wonderful and caring and hardworking, and you live in a late-stage capitalist society that has learned how to squeeze every last drop of productivity out of people and has taught us to do the same. Give yourself the break. So, how? That is the question. So, I'm going to be honest for a minute. When I was writing the outline for this episode, because I write outlines for my episodes, I was definitely not in the best place. Like, the reason that I wrote this episode is because I was feeling bad. At the same time, I knew that I had to take a break, and it isn't that easy, right? Because we live in a society that teaches us that we need to produce all the time or else we're lazy. And, even though I know that that is a thing, it's very ingrained. Luckily, I have a very good support group. I made my goal for the week, my writing goal for the week was self-care. And so I didn't push myself to do many of the things that I normally do. I reread Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I wrote the beginning of an Omegaverse Regency involving my characters Gino and Abby. I cropped and printed out some pictures for my Pokemon binder. I played way too many hours of RL-Craft, and I went to bed early several nights and slept through the night. And I still felt like I needed to be doing stuff. And I have it pretty easy in general. I have a fairly flexible schedule at work. I do not have any human children, and my partner is self-sufficient. The actual demands that I have to do are fairly low. There's certain things with work, that I have to do, and that's about it. And still, this goes on, right? And I'm like, I need a break, and I don't have a break. When I was writing this outline, I was like, okay, how do I make myself feel better? And my notes literally say, you know what? I don't have an answer today. And I stopped writing. I just stopped at that point with the outline. And I put it down, and I went away and did other stuff. And I came back to it later. I started working on it again, and I still was not at 100%. I think I worked on this outline about 2 or 3 times because I tried it and it didn't work, and I tried it and it didn't work, and then I finally got back to a good place where I feel like I could get back to it. And this is just what happens sometimes, right? And like these are things where I probably could have pushed through this, right? I probably could have pushed through this and made up some bullshit about like things that are always going to make us feel better or whatever. But that is just not the way it works. You know, part of this was depression, right? There's no solution to depression. You just deal with it, and sometimes it's worse than others. I am pretty sure that I'm going through perimenopause right now, and I'm pretty sure that my hormones are just whacked out from what they normally are. You know, and it took me a couple of months to figure it out, and then I'm kind of like, okay, what do I, you know, now I'm working with my doctor, but like, I'm still on a back foot about it, and it's just gonna happen. However, I have come up with ideas of ways we can help sometimes to help ourselves take a break. Basically, one of the major things that is going to be is the same thing that I said in Choosing to Have a Messy House, that episode. You really do have to be able to pick out the things that are necessary, like legitimately necessary, and not just, I feel like this is necessary because, you know, society says it's necessary. Like, you know, my kids are not going to be ruined forever if I microwave a pizza for dinner, like things like that. They're decisions that you've got to make based on whatever your situation is, and you kind of have to work up the skill in order to learn, okay, this legitimately is not necessary versus things that are. And so, like I had said, I gave myself the goal of self-care. It was not necessarily that easy. And part of it is sometimes reminding yourself over and over that you need to take a break. And that, yes, you can muscle through it because you are a wonderful and intelligent and hardworking person, but you don't have to. You know, mantra it. You know, I can do this and I don't have to right now, right? This is not a necessity. I don't have to right now, right? It's not easy. I'm not saying that any of this is easy. There is always going to be something to do, right? There's always going to be something that feels urgent, that has to be done. And truthfully, with the state of the effing country right now, like, that just adds to the stress. You might have remembered a couple of years ago when the world ended, in 2020, where we were suddenly all in our homes and we had no idea what was going on, where we were going to be going with that. And like, people were dropping like flies in the mental sense, right? Because that kind of daily pressure is like, it's unsustainable. Your body is not made to handle like a tiger is chasing me all the time. And for certain people, in certain situations, that is what they are living with every day. There's no pandemic, but like, things are going on, and this channel is not something to talk about that, but right now it is the reality. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's much hope. It doesn't seem like there's a way out of it. Like, you have to take that kind of stuff into account. Things are rough right now. If you need to use that as your excuse to take a break, then, do it. But take the break. You have to remember that if you don't have your health, and that's both physical and mental, if you don't have your health, then you don't have anything. If you don't have your health, you can't take care of your kids. You can't do your job. You can't follow your passions, right? You can't, right? We can push through for a while, but then you hit breakdown and your body is going to tell you, you can't do this anymore. It's better to struggle with developing the skill to learn how to take breaks than it is to have it forced upon you by a breakdown, because those generally last way longer. I took a week off. It was probably closer to 2 weeks off. Like, I kind of wasn't really honest with myself the first week, right? Breakdown can last a month. It can last longer than that, depending on how long you've been pushing yourself. Keep in mind what your necessities are. You need to feed yourself. You need to keep yourself relatively clean. You need to sleep. You need to do that for your dependents. That should not include your partner. Your partner should be able to take care of themselves. Work things so that you don't get fired. Obviously, like, if you've got time off, great. If you don't have time off, then take it easy. For me, this channel was necessary. Like, one of the main things that I tried to do, even though I knew that I needed to take a break, was to work on this channel. This taking a break thing is really something that I want to put out to you guys, because creativity is one of the first things that tends to go when things start getting bad. And it's really one of the most necessary, right? Like, it's the one that gives a lot of meaning to life. You want to be able to take breaks so that you get back to your creativity. So, in general, when you need a break, take a break. And you're going to have to practice being able to take a break, right? Remember the mantra. I can push through this, but I need a break right now. It's going to require letting things go. It's going to require letting things slip through the cracks. And it is stressful, but it will get better with practice. It's a skill just like anything else. You've been conditioned your whole life to not take breaks, to go, 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 go. So of course it's going to take a little bit of time to get over that. Burnout is much, much worse. You would rather avoid that. So, start working on your skill in taking breaks. So if you like this video, go ahead and like this video. If you want to see more of these videos, then go ahead and subscribe and stick around. And I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.